Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. Like, share, subscribe to all our channels. In case you don't know, we have 3 YouTube channels. We have Evolutionary Energy Arts, EEARTS, and also Heart's Own. And, we've gone through a lot of YouTube censorship, so we've had periods of time when Evolutionary was not able to, upload anything. And while we are on our Patreon page, we want to thank our newest Patreon, and it's Wesley. Thank you, Wesley.
Thank you so much, Wesley. We really appreciate the support to help us keep doing what we're doing.
Yes, and I do know Wesley wanted to do a Vedic chart, so if you're listening, just email us again. Anybody that's interested in getting a Vedic chart done, spiritual coaching, energy work, and everything else that we do, you can also reach us at evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. So we have this world exclusive from Nick Pope. The UK government's undertaking a study to prepare for how to announce. How. Not if, when, whatever. How do we announce the fact that there are aliens out there? By the way, Nick Pope, he describes himself as, I ran the British government's UFO project. The media called him the real Fox Mulder. Spookily, my wife is a scientist, a skeptic, and a redhead. Oh my God, Fox and Mulder. I remember the days, just couldn't wait for the X-Files to come on. And my daughter, too. She was a huge X-File fan.
Well, I named my very first boxer Mulder because he had a chip right between his withers, so we named him Mulder.
I always wondered about that. So this goes into a little bit more detail here from Planet Today about the Freedom of Information Act request. Because again, it's not just Nick Pope with the UK government. We could go on and talk about Paul Hellyer, Canadian government. We could go over to Israel. We could go to pretty much, it feels like most of the big countries, the power brokers, have had insiders come out and say, you know what, we are not alone. Well, you could throw all that away if you just look at the mythology of the world and look a little closer and don't just take it as mythology. It's all right there. And there's other things that are just weird. Have you ever seen this picture of the Pope talking to a feathered serpent? Kid you not. And so this article here is from back in 2019, talking about the 2016 ecumenical exchange program with the winged Mayan god Kukulkan. Hey, we did several videos too where the Pope was shown wearing a giant, a symbol of a giant that was another deity over in Chile, I believe. Yeah, Atacama, Chile. So why not? Do I cut to the chase? It's simply because these beings are real. And yeah, they are mythological. Again, every time we see that God word, make sure it's got a little g, because none of them are talking about the creator of the universe. These are beings. And when we talk about these beings, we are talking about extraterrestrials and also interdimensional beings that can move between densities.
Mm-hmm. I know, this is just, it's something that they know what's going on. The control system has known what's going on. They're in direct contact with them. I think it's just that people's consciousness is rising to a point they really cannot hide it anymore. You can't say all the hundreds and thousands, if not millions, of reports out there are just completely wrong and absolutely ridiculous and absolute lies. The absolute lie has been coming from this system.
Now, of course, tongue-in-cheek. This is all tongue-in-cheek, of course. But the reality is, this is the reality. We could wonder why does the Vatican look serpentine when we look inside? Why do they have a depiction of Christ that looks really demonic and twisted and distorted? Why is the Vatican, if it truly listened to what it says was the words of Yeshua, Jesus Christ, and talking about, well, if you really want to go all the way in your service to the Creator, service to God, give away all your wealth. Give it to the poor. Well, they're certainly not doing that. They have more riches than just about anybody. The reality is, again, this is one of the top control centers on the planet. And so, when we look at these depictions, does the Pope really talk to reptilian beings? Well, we've gotten, yes, he really, really does. This may be a kind of tongue-in-cheek joke, but it's really not when you get down to the truth. When you look to Africa, we have the Chitori, which is the story of the reptilian god who reigned Africa. Reptilian beings that control humanity and sometimes have a taste for things that we don't want to know or think of other beings wanting to have a taste for, if you understand what we're meaning here. So the Chitori literally means those who make the law. It's believed that these beings did many things to us when they arrived on Earth. And so this is according to the Zulu. And they came from the sky in ships and had the appearance of terrifying reptiles. Now this is in Africa. We see these stories all around the world. We have the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl as well. And you could see depictions of feathered serpent. And then why do you have like a priest holding a little globe in his hands between his looks like gloves, or is it reptilian hands? Again, David Icke has been more accurate than just about anyone. And then you have also these feathered serpent beings being shown depicted literally eating humans. Of course, this is just mythology. That's all it is. It's just mythology, It's just about don't give in to your dark side and let it devour you. It's just, there is that truth, but then there's also a little bit more literal component. Look at this depiction of a demon king, Pazuzu. This is Mesopotamian. We see these same exact beings. We see the same exact carvings, sculptures, and depictions all the way across the world. We hear the same stories from all the indigenous people. Are they all just bad dreams? Here you have Sumeria 4,000 years BC. And we also have the same type of sculptures coming up in Mesoamerica. And a lot of people now are channeling their inner reptoid on the political stage, that's for sure. And a lot more people are sharing their personal experiences of abductions and finding themselves with reptilian beings. I've personally talked to more than one person that's had that type of encounter. So this is one of the things that I think needs to be said because, like on Twitter, I'll see people talking about abductions and they're always bad experiences with some people. And then other people get something very, very different. Very different. And they have kind of abduction experiences, but they're not malevolent. They're actually being, in some cases, healed. In some cases, they're getting upgraded. It all depends on your frequency. It really does. Because when we stay at a higher frequency, the lower entities can't control us. If we are doing things, again, like drug abuse, abusing alcohol, and all sorts of vibration lowering, big FARMA, All those things will make us very, very susceptible to these dark demonic entities. And that's why, if that's where we are vibrating at, that's only people we're going to be encountering, because these are people, these are beings. They are, units of consciousness that are very, very real. They don't just exist in our mythology or in our nightmares. They really do exist.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's something, if you know that it happened, it's very, very frightening, and you really have to decide for yourself. They could have been bringing someone up to heal them, but that's for you to decide. But I think it's just natural for anyone to go through an experience like that, even remotely, to say, hey, well, this was not okay, this was not good. But you have to stand back and look at the bigger picture, and decide for yourself. But I do believe there's plenty of bad instances, but I also believe and have experienced good experiences too. So it's not, you can't just write it off as all bad.
No, again, it depends on the individual. If your life is dominated by the dark side, lower frequency energies, again, drug addiction, too much, alcohol, etc., then you're going to be in that frequency range that these beings can utilize you, feed off you, and start to manipulate you. Yes, demonic possession is very, very real. Another thing I'll see sometimes in different videos is people saying, well, you can't trust any channeling because channelers can easily be taken over by dark entities. It depends on the person's frequency. It really, really does depend on the channeler's frequency. So if the channeler is keeping their vibes high, if they are not indulging in those lowering substances, consciousness lowering substances, if they have a very, very strong spiritual practice, then yeah, they're going to be protected from those entities, especially if they are people that are doing things like banishing rituals, utilizing sage, putting out positive intention, encircling their property and themselves in protective light, and calling on their angels. All these things are going to keep you from channeling those lower entities. But if it's the converse, and if they are, going to the bars and getting drunk every night and, listening to music that is lowering their energy and their vibes, then yeah, absolutely, they can be channeling the darker energies.
And what can happen too, if you're one that's really sensitive and you're taking on energies of these other people, you can actually release chemicals in your body that can make you sick. So I always kind of tell people, be careful what you're exposing yourself to. It can adversely affect you. And follow your gut. You are the number one most important person that needs to trust. It's what's inside of you. And if you're hearing something that doesn't quite sound right, trust that. Trust that. Don't just dismiss that because you think, different of someone. Trust that first gut instinct.
So this is talking about the Popol Vuh, which is it's a 16th century text that was using the Latin alphabet of the Spanish conquerors. It's about the Mayans of the Yucatan Peninsula that were converted to Roman Catholicism by the Spanish missionaries, but they still recorded the historical text in their native language. So it was translated into Spanish back in the 18th century. The translation was lost for about 150 years, and so too was the epic, but it was rediscovered in the Guatemalan library in the 1850s. So what's interesting of it is that it again echoes so much of the Bible. It really, really does. And the thing to recognize is the biggest distortion in the Bible is, again, putting many, many entities under the label of either just God or Lord, because every other text will talk about the exact same situations, the floods, you name it, everything. is really very similar, except for instead of just one being in a generic term, there's different beings that are mentioned with different names. And so this is very, very interesting. It's an ancestral narrative in which the stories of human origins intersect with the accounts of higher human potential and also paleo contact. The story of a cognitive downgrade is echoed here. So what does that mean? That humans were manipulated by these reptilian beings, and the humans' abilities that they did have before the reptilian beings came here were downgraded or lowered. In other words, humans lived longer. Humans had abilities to communicate with animals and other beings on other densities. And we've echoed this many, many times. Things like clairvoyance and precognition, being able to evoke spontaneous healings, etc., etc. All these things were part of what humans were. It's the reptilian beings that downgraded humans and then took the credit for creating humans. They did not create humans. They manipulated what was here and they downgraded it. They turned off genes in our DNA. They turned off whole sections of what was at one time completely active and functioning on a very, very high level.
There's going to be some type of trying to control the narrative always, because these beings, that's what they thrive off of. That's what they need. That's what they just need, the control. So they are definitely going to put people in a place in the media, even alternative media, to say that, oh, they're not so bad, they're okay, they just have this system, they just want to uphold certain laws, and it's okay. No, keep in mind the alternative media is bought and paid for. They're promised something to deliver something and to try to get people on board with, oh, it's okay type scenario.
Yeah, and it's everything that you find at the top tiers of the control system. So there absolutely is truth to the royals and their lizard-ish reptilian connections. This statue is an actual statue that's thousands of years old to the right. And of course, this is a more modern representation to the left. But here you clearly see what looks like a very, very reptilian. There's no other way to kind of describe it. It's reptilian, and it's wearing clothes. It's wearing clothes. Yes, I mean, that's a pretty obvious takeaway. When you look to the Australian Aboriginals, again, they'll tell you the same story. And some of these reptilians still exist inside the earth. Every single culture will echo this. Every single continent, it'll be echoed. That there are reptilian control centers inside the earth, but they also come from afar. And this is just a realization that we're going to have disclosure. The reality is we're in the middle of an intergalactic, interdimensional war that is still ongoing. You're behind enemy lines, but thankfully Mother Earth is rising in her own frequency. So it's getting tougher and tougher for these beings to maintain control and their human puppets to maintain the facade that they're actually controlling the show, the puppets. The puppets don't control anything. They just take directions.
Just keep in mind that things usually need to get a little worse before they get better.
Well, again, it's those that are so ego-driven that they value control and everything that comes from the ego, all those what we would term, negative energies, they're going to do whatever they can to maintain their position, their power, their status, their celebrity status. As we have more and more celebrities, what are they doing? They're kind of disappearing. Do you really think they want to disappear? No, they love the limelight. They know they're about to kick off a different a different stage in the Great Awakening, the Great Apocalypse, which again, it's the unveiling, guys. It's the unveiling. Again, when you look to the Native Americans, the Sioux, the Hopi, the Iroquois, it goes on and on and on. They all have these same legends, and I've talked to some on, in and around the reservation areas that they have legends that they don't typically share with those that are not of their origins. And it's just because, why would they not share? Because they've been attacked. They've been squished onto these tiny little reservations. Why? Because they, for the most part, had more senses operating than those that came and conquered them. The reason why those that came and conquered them were able to do it was because they had more advanced technology given to them by the real control system, which again is a Draco-Reptilian control system. Yes, nature is fascinating, and technology can be fascinating and fun too. We just have to find the balance in our life and recognize that even though some things might be fun, they are using them as a tool to control us. Yet we could turn the tables on them, and while we're able to, we'll use it as a tool to expose them.
I like that idea.
Source bless. Namaste.
Namaste.